For many years, Dr. Charles Stanley was the calm voice that helped people trust God when life felt scary. His church talks reached millions of people, his books were in homes all over the world, his quiet, strong faith made him one of the most loved pastors in America. But when he died in April 2023, something felt off to a lot of people. Everyone sent nice messages and said sweet things, but quietly people started talking and asking questions no one thought they'd ever ask about someone so respected. Why was his close team so quiet? Why did it take so long to do an autopsy? Now, for the first time, we know what was in that report. It shows a sadder and more complicated story than anyone thought. His life was built on faith and tough times. Charles Fraser Stanley was born on September 25, 1932, in Dry Fork, Virginia, right in the middle of the Great Depression. His dad died when he was only 9 months old. His mom, Rebecca, had to raise him all by herself. When she married a truck driver named John Hall, things got even harder for little Charles. His stepdad was mean and yelled a lot. He never said anything nice. Stanley later remembered being scared his mom might get really hurt. One night, he even had to step in and protect her. Those scary memories stayed with him and helped make him the preacher he grew up to be. When he was 12, he said he felt God change his heart completely. 2 years later, at just 14, he gave his very first sermon. The hard stuff from when he was little pushed him to want to help people with God's words. In 1956, he finished college at the University of Richmond with a regular degree. Then he got a master's degree from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Texas. Later, he got a Doctor of Theology degree from Luther Rice Seminary. In 1969, Stanley started working at First Baptist Church of Atlanta. Just 2 years later, when he was on LI 39, he became the main pastor there. What he did next changed Christian TV forever. In 1972, he started a local TV show called The Chapel Hour. It quickly went all over the country. By 1977, he started In Touch Ministries. His talks were turned into more than 50 languages and shown in 200 countries. Hearing Stanley on Sunday became normal for tons of people. His famous saying was simple: obey God and let Him take care of everything else. But behind his calm voice was a guy who went through a lot of fights growing up. Those hurts never went away, they just turned into super strong self-control. His friends said he never got tired, he was super careful about everything, and sometimes he seemed far away. He wasn't only preaching about saving souls, he was quietly fighting his own battles that most people never saw. That inside struggle came back later, first in his marriage, then in his body, and it stayed with him until the very end. But back then, America only saw the winning side. He was a pastor who led millions, grew one of the biggest Baptist churches in the country, and was even president of the Southern Baptist Convention. Nobody thought the same guy who taught the world about forgiving could still be fighting his own old ghosts, the hard parts of being powerful, and the messy side of faith. By the early 1980s, Dr. Charles Stanley wasn't just a pastor anymore. He was a big symbol. His talks were on TV everywhere. His books sold millions of copies. Everyone in American Christian circles looked up to him. But inside First Baptist Church of Atlanta, things were getting tense. The leaders were split. Some people loved how strong and full of energy he was. Other people were scared of his super strict beliefs and how much power he was getting. One Sunday morning, it all blew up. After he gave a really strong sermon, hundreds of people who didn't like it walked out and made a huge scene. In the mess, one of the leaders even hit him. But then something amazing happened. Thousands of people who loved him rushed forward to stand with their pastor. When they voted, almost everyone wanted to keep him. The message was super clear. Charles Stanley wasn't just a preacher, he was a fighter. The Southern Baptist Convention noticed big time. In 1984 and again in 1985, they picked him to be president. He led a huge push to make the group way more conservative, and it changed everything. While he was in charge, the more middle-of-the-road and liberal people lost power over schools and groups because he wanted the church to follow the Bible word for word. His fans thought he was saving real Christianity from getting watered down. His critics said he was turning church into politics. He didn't see it as politics. He believed God told him to stand up for truth even if people hated it. Still, being powerful cost him a lot. The higher he got, the lonelier he felt. Some people whispered that he wanted too much control and that In Touch Ministries was turning into a giant empire. Even his friends saw how tired it made him. He almost never rested. He worked from early morning until super late, scared that if he stopped, everything would fall apart. At home, things were breaking too. His marriage to his wife Anna, after more than 40 years together, was quietly ending. The fights they used to keep private couldn't stay hidden anymore. In 1992, Anna asked for a legal separation. They tried counseling and even took the papers back once, but it never got better. In 1995, she asked again, and in 2000, they got officially divorced. For the Southern Baptist world, it was the biggest scandal ever. Stanley had said out loud that he would quit pastoring if he ever got divorced. But when it happened, the church changed the rules so he could stay as long as he didn't get married again. Almost everyone voted yes to let him sing. Some Atlanta radio stations stopped playing his talks for a little bit and people said he was done, but he kept going. He kept preaching, calm and strong, like nothing bothered him. But behind the scenes, it really hurt. The guy who taught millions how to forgive was now the one who needed it the most. All the drama, the power, and the hidden stuff. Even while his church got bigger and his shows reached more people, Dr. Charles Stanley's name got caught up in arguments. He was used to people not liking what he said. His talks about how society was getting worse, same-sex relationships, and men and women's roles made people fight all over the country. His fans thought he was protecting the truth that never changes. People who didn't like him thought he was too strict and wouldn't bend. What he said about women being pastors caused the biggest fights. He really respected women in the church, but he truly believed only men should be pastors. That matched what the Southern Baptist Convention believed, but it pushed a ton of people away. The split got worse when the SBC kicked out churches that let women be pastors. Stanley's group quietly agreed with that. Then there was his friendship with Jerry Falwell and the Moral Majority, a group that mixed Christian faith with conservative politics. Stanley was on the board and helped Falwell when the group was super powerful in the 1980s. They got Christian people to vote, helped Ronald Reagan win, and fought against abortion and the Equal Rights Amendment. It was a huge time for religion in America, but it made church and government mix too much for some people. A lot of people said Stanley was turning faith into just another political thing. He never said sorry. He once said, "If it's in the Bible, it's not politics." But behind all that strong talk, something quieter was growing inside In Touch Ministries. The big organization he built ran like a company. By the 2010s, it was making more than $90 million a year from gifts, books, and TV shows. Stanley lived simpler than a lot of TV preachers, but his paycheck was still over $500,000 a year, and some people thought that was too much. A few people inside whispered about secret spending, fancy trips, and money no one could track. Nothing was ever proved, but people kept talking. When he got into his late 70s, his body started giving out. He looked weaker when he preached, and his strong voice sometimes shook. People close to him saw he was missing big events. When anyone asked, In Touch just said short things like, "He's resting, everything's fine." But something was really wrong. People on the inside talked about him getting pneumonia over and over, kidney problems, and being super tired all of a sudden. The man who told everyone to stay strong with God was quietly falling apart in his own body. The last days and what the autopsy showed. By early 2023, no one could ignore the talk about Dr. Charles Stanley's health anymore. He almost never showed up in public. When he did, he looked super thin and far away, and it scared people who had followed him forever. His team at In Touch stayed quiet and just said he was resting and happy. But the people really close to him knew the truth. He was getting worse fast. Breathing hurt, moving hurt, and the guy who never stopped now couldn't even stand up long for his own prayers. For years, he had told people to give everything to God. Now he had to live that himself. On April 18, 2023, the news came out. Dr. Charles F. Stanley had died quietly in his sleep at his home in Atlanta. He was 90 years old. The announcement was short and plain. They didn't say he was sick or why he died. Right away, P.E. Opal from everywhere sent beautiful messages. Church leaders called him a giant of faith. Even old presidents said nice things. His son, Andy Stanley, who became a pastor too at North Point Community Church, said thank you for everything his dad taught him. But behind all the nice words, more and more questions came up. Why were there no hospital papers? Why didn't the family say anything about his last days? It took weeks before the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office said yes, they did an autopsy. When they finally told everyone what they found, a lot of his fans were shocked. The report said pneumonia and kidney failure were the main reasons he died, stuff that had been getting worse for months, but it said more. It showed he had been fighting lung infections that kept coming back and being super tired for almost 3 years. His body couldn't fight sickness well anymore, probably because of long-term swelling and stress that never got treated right. People close to him later said he said no to the hospital many times. He wanted to stay home with his books, pictures, and Bible. The secrets, the quiet, and what he left behind. After the autopsy came out, In Touch Ministries put out a short, careful message thanking everyone for prayers and asking for privacy. But when people stay quiet, others start guessing. Inside First Baptist Church of Atlanta, people quietly talked about what really happened in his last weeks and who decided what about his care. Some members who had been there forever wondered why everything was kept so secret. Other people wondered why his son Andy was the one talking to the public while staying away from In Touch, which had its own leaders. There were quiet talks about fights over money he left, who controls his old shows, and how his name will be used. None of it was proven, but it made things feel darker for a man who used to seem so open and strong. People really close to him said his last year was lonely but calm. His helpers said he spent most days reading, praying, and writing little notes for the ministry to keep. He hardly let anyone visit, only a few trusted workers and family. One helper remembered Stanley seemed to know the end was close. He said he was ready. He told them, "God has been good to me. I have no regrets." But the same helper said the pastor still felt heavy about making things right, maybe with people he fought with long ago or families still hurt from the past. Even with all the mystery, no one could argue how big he still was. While he was alive, In Touch Ministries grew into one of the biggest Christian TV groups in the world, making over $90 million a year and showing programs in more than 50 languages. His more than 70 books kept selling, and his old talks were still a huge part of Christian radio and TV. But the bigger the ministry got, the more people wondered what it cost him. The autopsy showed his body broke down. His private papers showed his heart was tired. It was clear that doing God's work with everything he had took everything he had. What the mystery really means. In the months after he died, Dr. Charles Stanley only seemed to get bigger to people. Churches all over America played his old talks to remember him. His ministry put out some of his most loved books again, How to Handle Adversity, The Source of My Strength, and In Step with God. But the way people talked about him changed a little. They weren't just listening to a preacher anymore. They were trying to understand the real man. The autopsy took away the question of how he died, but it showed something bigger, how heavy it was to carry everyone's hopes for over 50 years. In private letters people found later, Stanley wrote about what pain taught him. He talked about his stepdad, the guy who made his childhood scary, and how forgiving him finally set him free. He said leaving his wife was the hardest test he ever had, and choosing to be kind instead of mad kept him from falling apart completely. But you could feel how tired he was. One note said, "My heart still believes, but the body can't keep going." People who worked right next to him said he thought pain always had a reason. He used to say, "God doesn't waste pain." One worker remembered him saying, "If you're hurting, God is shaping you." But to people watching from outside, it made tough questions. Did trying to be the perfect, never-shaking man of God push him way past what any person can handle? In the end, the same super-strong self-control that made him special might have been what broke him. Dr. Charles Stanley's story shows us that even the strongest people can break when no one is looking. His autopsy showed what his quiet heart never said out loud, how much it costs to live totally for other people. But maybe that's just what it takes to be great, carrying the weight of believing so hard. What do you think? Was his total devotion the best thing about him? or the thing that wore him out completely? Tell us what you think down below. And if you want more hidden stories about faith and famous people, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more.